And so it's tempting to fall into the habit of coming to worship with an attitude of just getting it done. Just getting it done so that we can move on to the next thing that will be a lot more fun. An attitude that doesn't always just confine itself to worship, but quite often is an attitude with which many folks approach life itself. The attitude of just getting whatever it is we're doing done, because it's plain old water, and we want to get on to the next thing, which promises to be new wine. How easy it is to get up in the morning and simply go from one event of the day to the next, never catching the opportunities for joy and celebration that each event, to some extent, always hold. Our meals become something we hurry through so that we can either get to the work or the play that's waiting for us. Our work becomes something that we have to just hurry up and get done so that we can get to the play. Our play becomes something that we're sure we would enjoy more if we can just work harder and get more things to play with. We have a difficult time being present to whatever is really happening while it's happening, because we're just sure there's bound to be something better down the road. We begin to think that whatever is happening now is just water, and we want to get to the wine. Yes, it's not only true of worship, it's true of our own lives. But there's good news in these bits of truth. Because worship is given to us as a microcosm of life. How we come to worship is often very similar in how we come to life. And if that's true, if we believe that's true, then as we begin to practice changing how we come to worship, we may just also find that it transforms how we come to life. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I'm using a book in our classes on Sunday morning called Celebration of Discipline. I'm using it basically as a structure. I don't follow everything that's in there. But one thing that he says in his chapter on worship, where he gives 7 steps to making worship a better experience. One thing he says is this. It's his 7th step. He says, absorb distractions with gratitude. And then he writes this. If there is noise or distraction, rather than fussing and fuming about it, learn to take it and conquer it. If little children are running about, bless them. Thank God that they are alive and that they have energy. And here's the important part. He says, become willing to relax with distractions, because they may just be a message from God. Learn to relax with distractions, because they just may be a message from God. I've found this not only helpful in my own worship experience, when I'm either distracted by something that's going on or distracted because maybe it's a hymn I don't like too much, or the gospel's too long, or the prayers of the people, I've forgotten where we were in them or something. It's something I've learned, that sometimes even the distractions of things that interfere, things that I don't particularly like, things that I wonder why they're there, even in those distractions, that may be a love note from God. And in finding that in my worship, I found that to be true in my life. That some of the things in the course of the day that I might view as a distraction, if I stop and think about it, may just be not so much a distraction, but a love note from God. A phone call while I'm busy trying to think of what the announcements are for Sunday, that brings me back to the relationships that God has intended for all of us here. Somebody stopping by the office, a note that's shoved under the door that I can't just leave till later, that I have to pick up and look at right then. Things that I could consider distractions, but when thought of as love notes from God, completely transform the way I approach my life. See, the practice of responding differently in worship can transfer to responding differently in life. And it's true in many ways, not just with distractions. If we go back to the gospel and look at all the characters in that gospel and see how they came to the feast, and imagine ourselves coming to worship that way, and imagine ourselves coming to life that way, we can learn a lot. If we come as guests, if we come as the guests did to that feast, we'll come expecting there to be joy and celebration. And if you come expecting and seeking and looking for that and allowing yourself to enter into it, you'll find that you will leave that worship service with some sense of joy and some sense of celebration. And you will find that to be true if you approach life that way as well. The bridegroom and the bride, they came to the wedding feast with something to celebrate. And if we come to worship knowing that we have something to celebrate, even if our week was bad, that there's something we can celebrate, if we come knowing that we have something to celebrate, then we will leave that worship with an experience of celebration. And it's true not just for worship, but it's true for the way we come to life. And if we come as a servant, as in the story, a servant that was willing to listen to something that sounded absolutely ridiculous, absolutely like it wouldn't work, to fill an empty jar with water and serve it as wine. How stupid can you get? But if we're willing to come with that listening and trusting attitude of a servant who simply hears what's there and is willing to try it, we'll find that there is a celebration and joy that flows out of worship into our hearts and pervades every moment of every day. For the life that God gives us is a life that we are meant to celebrate, both in worship and in our everyday lives. And it is always true, always, that what we sometimes think to just be plain water may actually turn out to be the finest of God's wine.